What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the quarter, and the reviews have been flowing in for Black Widow, a movie that I admit I was excited for 2 years ago, but now could take it or leave it. Will it change if the movie is good or not? Not necessarily, but I do think it will color people's perceptions of the film. Uh, um, it will be facing an uphill battle, I think, because of so many things. So many things I talked about many times on this channel. From the box office perspective, a lot of people still aren't ready to go back to the movie theater. There are a lot of people out there that will never go back to movie theaters. There are a lot of people who have become disenchanted with Disney or Marvel for a variety of reasons, whether it's Gina Carano or some of the filming choices they've made and voluntarily censoring themselves. There are a lot of people that have now become accustomed to streaming. We saw the convenient timing of Disney Plus launching right around worldwide lockdowns, leading it to massive membership growth and offering people an opportunity to stay home, watch a movie, or to overconsume, which is what I think a lot of people did. Eventually, now it's summertime, people are dipping out. We've seen this with Loki viewership plummeting, 150,000 viewers from episode 1 to episode 3. That to me was shocking. But I'll tell you what, if I'm watching movies like I watched last night, Haunted, which was not available here in the United States, I easily changed my location using a VPN. A lot of my viewers tell me they like to watch certain anime that is behind region locks. Guess what? The best way to do that is to use a VPN. I use private internet access, and I have an amazing offer for you. In the pinned comment down below, not only will you be supporting the channel, but you will protect yourself, keep your data away from big tech. It will allow you to access region block content. And quite frankly, it's 2021. It's time to be using a VPN. The benefits are innumerable. Now, the reviews are in for Black Widow, and as it stands, 84%. With 76 reviews. What's interesting, of course, about the Rotten Tomatoes, again, that doesn't mean that the movie is purposely misleading. That doesn't mean that the movie rates an 84 out of 100. It means that 84% of all reviews are middling or mildly positive. A 2.5 out of 5 is still considered positive, according to Rotten Tomatoes, from what I understand. And between you and me, like, giving a movie a 50% does not make it good. I'm not going on my way to watch a movie that scored 50%. Now, if we look at Marvel movies in general, though, the category of Marvel movies, overall, there are many films. If we look at the Avengers, there's if we go Endgame, Infinity War, we could go down the line. And most of these films, obviously Endgame receiving a 94. You can look at Infinity War 85, Guardians of the Galaxy 92. It's right around. It's actually a little low, I would argue. Wonder Woman had a 93. Ant-Man had an 82. So it basically had the same score as Ant-Man, which isn't that good. I don't want to reach and say that it's just negative, but it's not exactly super duper positive. And if you look at some of the reviews, some of the movies actually, or the reviews, really aren't that positive. If we look at a lot of the fans like Scott Mendelson and stuff like that, let's see what some of the positives say. Black Widow gives Nat a legacy that could reach wide into the MCU and might just change it for the better. Den of the Geek, assuming that the MCU is already bad. I'm not sure. But here's what I'm talking about. Mike Massey with Gone with the Twins, okay, gives the movie a 60%, okay? 60% out of 100. Would you call that a good review? No, I don't think so, right? But they give it a red mark. It often reminds viewers that all of this could have been so much more powerful and riveting without the over-the-top tech or superheroes of any kind. You could see another film here, or another, here's a negative review. Great girl power and family dynamics and dramatic scenes stand out, but the action and thriller bits blend together into an immemorable montage. How about from Cinemalog? A facile metaphor against the times, the modern superhero franchise hides real issues behind a mask or blonde hair dye and a green vest. I guess I'm not really refined to, I don't find that review very good. But Mendelsohn, which is often an interesting and go-to reviewer, says, the years too late solo flick for Scarlett Johansson's MCU superhero is both too much of a glorified backdoor pilot for its co-star and not up to par with spy films and espionage thrillers it wishes to emulate. 4 out of 10. You know, it's interesting. You see, like, some of the top reviews, though, there are some glowingly positive reviews. There's 8.5 out of 10. An excellent return to theaters for Marvel, showing an initial casting of Johansson and the weight put on Shortland's shoulders to deliver a worthy Marvel action movie were both fully warranted. I don't think this movie's going to be terrible. I just don't. But I do think that the time that has passed is definitely going to temper expectations for a lot of people. You could see Black Widow seems like a missed opportunity, an energetic placeholder in the MCU meant to tide audiences over until a bigger, richer adventure comes along. Well, we know that they moved, Black Widow around, and obviously the global lockdowns of theaters didn't help. And you see most of these reviews, though, are middling or, middle positive to middle negative. Black Widow simultaneously feels like too much, too late. Like the young Natasha herself, Black Widow feels as though it's been programmed into submission and scarcely allowed to live and breathe before it's suddenly over. The stakes are non-existent. No matter how many times a bad guy or girl aims a weapon at our beloved hero, we know that she has a specific quote-unquote end game. This is something I've talked about at length with my disillusionment with the MCU. I totally understand, totally understand that I'm being unrealistic for a Disney movie. But the stakes, man, knowing that no hero is ever in any real danger removes a huge part of the emotional attachment to a movie that you're supposed to feel, at least in my opinion. You see Flickering Myth saying, Marvel returns to cinemas and its first film back is a bit lackluster. It feels 10 years too late, not just for a character, but for this type of bland action film. Calling it bland. Black Widow might be better late than never, but Marvel Studios does it again and delivers with the good. So there's plenty of positive reviews. Boiled down to its essence, this narrative isn't terribly hard to follow, but in execution, the film moves so haphazardly as to be bewildering. Black Widow falls victim to a big bombast characteristic of the studio. The result is a disappointing solo movie that ends up burying Natasha Romanoff once again. Its lazy script reduces elements of trauma, anti-dialogue, add awkward comedy, a disappointing Marvel movie that fails its fans and casting alike. There's a lot of people being pretty rough on it. Again, many positive reviews. And you could see critic reviews for Disney's Marvel Studios and upcoming Black Widow film, which will stream on Disney Plus for $30 as well as hit theaters, have finally been released. On Rotten Tomatoes, the Tomato Critic is currently at 89. It's now dropped to 84, with 47 fresh reviews and 6 reviews. Negative, I assume. The average is 7.1 out of 10. The average score is a 7 out of 10. That's probably what the movie will be. Now, they marketing it up with the 89% stuff. Like I said, it's purposely misleading. Johnny over at the New York Post gave the film a 3 out of 4. He writes, the movie's vibe isn't like your average MCU entry at all. Really, what it reminded me of was the many James Bond films where 007 goes rogue and cavorts around the world city seeking revenge for revenge du jour. Justin Change at LA Times gives the movie a rotten score. He writes, like a young Natasha herself, Black Widow feels as though it's been programmed into submission. The stakes are non-existent. It's fine. I think the average reviews would have been a little bit higher if the movie had come out on time. But now that all the hype is worn off, I think people are a little more comfortable being rougher on these films. And it's odd for a woman power film, although critics seem to be able to find justification for dumping on Scarlett Johansson anytime they want. You see Metascore is at 70 based on 26. This one's a little more, honest. Clint Worthington at Consequence gives the film an 83. As a reintroduction to the cinematic universe after a year off due to the lockdowns, it's definitely worth a look. Here's to hoping more Marvel flicks take inspiration from this one and shrink their scope, focus on characters, and get the action right. For God's sakes, give us a better third act. Yeah, that's typical for Marvel, mailing in that third act. I mean, there are people here. May over at Screw Ant gives it a 60. The biggest disappointment perhaps is it doesn't do enough to focus on Natasha, opting yet to set up Yelena as her successor. There is just enough Black Widow, however, to make it a distinct film, one that is less of a traditional superhero outing in the MCU, with the film more interested in exploring the lengths of human cruelty, perseverance, and the ties that bind despite everything. That's like a pretty positive review, and then giving it a 60. There's a lot of really terrible reviews. At the end of the day, critics are generally a joke. Will I be paying to see this movie? No, I don't think so. One of my friends rents it or something like that. Maybe I'll go over and watch it, but certainly I'll be interested to hear what you all think. What do you think the expectations for this movie will be? And also I'll remind you, the pinned comment in this video is for a special offer for private internet access. Protect your data from big tech, change your location to access regional lock content, and so much more. And support the channel. Protect yourself, support the channel. Win-win. Get private internet access today. Link in the pinned comment below. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.